a third-year business student here at the University of Lincoln. And today we'll be doing a live lounge session focusing on student accommodation at Lincoln. During this session, we'll be finding more about the different options and a reminder of how to apply. And then we'll be joined by some of our current students to discuss their experience of living at the University Managed Accommodation. Now, throughout this session, I would love if everyone could drop some comments or questions that they might have for Sophie here. So, Sophie, hello, how are you doing?
Very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very good. So could you just tell me briefly, what do you do here at the university?
Of course. So my official title is I'm the Business Support Administrator in Accommodation Services, and I'm also the Acting Administrator of one of our developments, St. Mark's, which I will go into a little bit in a few minutes.
Wonderful. So could you tell us a little bit about what accommodation at Lincoln looks like and what we have to offer?
Of course, so I will start with St. Mark's. So St. Mark's is one of our off-campus accommodations, and it's actually our newest. So it was only built in 2021, so only a couple years old. And it's also our biggest, so it holds just a little over 1,300 rooms across 10 blocks. So it has that really sort of nice student community feel to it. Moving on, we've got Valentine Court, and this is another off-campus accommodation. Now, this one's probably the furthest one away from the university campus, but no more than a 10-minute walk, I'd say. And this is the only accommodation that has limited parking permits available. So if you're looking to study a course that has a placement, Valentine Court's a good one to go and have a look at on one of our offer holder days coming up. Then we have 179 High Street. Now, this one is a little bit of best of both worlds because it has 1 foot on Lincoln City Centre and then also 1 foot on campus. So you're right in the heart of the Brayford campus, but also right in the heart of Lincoln as well. Then we have Lincoln Courts, which is our on-campus accommodation. And this one is the only accommodation that has the option of an ensuite or a shared bathroom. All of the other accommodations just have an ensuite as your standard room. Lincoln Courts is the only one as well that has a single bed, whereas the others have a small double or a 3/4. And last but certainly no means least is Signet Wharf, our other on-campus accommodation. And this one is all about location. So it's right on the Brayford waterfront, so it has a nice picture scenic view. And I'm not exaggerating when I say it's 1 to 2 minute walk from our Student Wellbeing Centre and our GP as well.
So like some of the accommodation that Sophie just mentioned, we've got 3 students joining us later. They live in 179 Lincoln Courts and Valentine. So please think of some questions that you have for them about their experience within those accommodation. So Sophie, for anyone who missed our last live lounge, could you please remind them how students apply for accommodation here?
Of course. So the main thing is you'll need to have made the University of Lincoln your firm choice on your UCAS before you can apply for accommodation. This usually takes about 48 hours for that information to go from the UCAS team over to our admissions team in the University of Lincoln and then filtered down to us in accommodation. You will then most likely receive an email from us inviting you to apply. Now, you'll need your 8-digit student ID number. If you can't find it, drop us a phone call, drop us an email, and we'll be able to find it for you. Then, most importantly, is choosing your development. So with that student ID number, you will log on to our student booking portal, and we will ask you to put 4 choices of accommodation down in preference order. So if St. Mark's is your favourite, pop that as your number 1, Lincoln Courts is your number 2, and so on. We will also ask you, would you like to be in a mixed gender or single gender apartment? And if you have any medical that we might need to know about as well. Once you've done this and submitted that application, give my team 2 to 3 working days just to process that application, and then we will send you an offer of accommodation. Now, you need to have remembered your password for your booking portal because we will make you log back in so you can see your offer of accommodation. If you are happy with it, then you will be processed and then you will have secured your accommodation. Now, at this point, we don't tell you your full address. We don't tell you the block, the apartment, or the room, because that happens just a little bit later on in the year. So at this point in time, you will know you've secured your room at St. Mark's, and then keep an eye on your email. A couple months down the line, we will send you your full address and arrival information as well.
Wonderful. So if anyone has any questions for our accommodation expert, please put them in the chat. We've actually got one right now from Grace. She's asked, How do we know how long of a contract to get?
So this one is always a tricky one because we have so many different contract lengths. So our shortest contract is 40 weeks, and we have a set standard, which is 44, and then we have some longer ones at 46 and 51 as well. Now, in theory, 40 weeks should cover most courses. We do have longer weeks in case there are placements, exam resits maybe, or people would just like to stay in Lincoln. Just because your course finishes, say in May, doesn't mean you have to fit in that contract that's based on your course. But if you're not sure, we do advise get in touch with your course lead. They will be able to tell you roughly how long your course length is, and then you can pick the right contract for you.
Wonderful. Thanks for the great question, Grace. Sophie, could you tell us a little bit more about Res Life and the support that team offers?
So Res Life is a great team made up of older students, and they might have gone through similar situations that yourself's going through, and they're there to support all students staying in university managed accommodation. So they're available every night on a peer-to-peer phone call, and this is from 6 p.m. in the evening until midnight. Now, maybe you're feeling homesick, maybe you just want some cooking advice. Doesn't really matter the question as such, because these guys are here to offer any kind of support they can. They also have their Res Life Lounge, which is located in the back of our Signet Wharf development. And this is open most evenings, most weekends, and they put on an array of different events throughout the year. And they're all available for students staying in university managed accommodation.
Wonderful, thank you. We've got a great question here from Mikhailo. He's asked, can you tell us a bit more about the possibility of living on campus all year round, for example, for estranged students?
Yeah, of course. So normally we do have some kind of accommodation available during the summer, but this is reviewed every year. So pick the contract and the development which is best for you. And then when it gets to, I'd probably say about June time, please do drop us an email, say, I can't go home for X, Y, or Z reasons, or maybe you just really want to stay in Lincoln. Just let us know, and we should have a plan in place and be able to offer any support we can so you can stay in Lincoln, or then direct people that may be able to support further.
Wonderful, thank you. That was a great question. We've got another one here from the chat asking, when do you have to apply for a 2025 September start? And when you've been accepted, but you're still finishing your A-levels, like finishing in May this year?
Okay, so there's no official deadline for applying for accommodation. Now, we do have a guarantee in place that if you apply before the 1st of August 2025, you are guaranteed a room. But the actual application process goes to clearing and beyond pretty much up until and after our arrivals. Now, I do say, if you know for certain you're wanting to come to University of Lincoln and it is your firm choice, and you know for certain that you're wanting to stay in university managed accommodation, some of our accommodations, such as 179 High Street, are a little bit smaller, with only roughly about 300 rooms. So if you're thinking, I want to stay there, it might be worth applying sooner rather than later to avoid disappointment. But if you're interested in St. Mark's, which is 1,300 odd rooms, I wouldn't worry so much about when to apply, just whenever's best for you, really. But just keep that in the back of your mind if you're wanting one of the smaller accommodations.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jack. Sophie, could you tell us a little bit more about some of the benefits of living in university managed accommodation?
Of course. So it's not just a room at the end of the day. It is going to be your home away from home. So your Wi-Fi and all your utility bills are included. Contents insurance of up to £5,000. We do have 24/7 on-campus security and our maintenance team as well. And we do have a on-campus gym in our sports centre, and there's a gym membership included for all students staying in university managed accommodation for the duration of their contract.
Wonderful, thank you. So we're going to take a quick break before we're joined by some students. So please think of some questions for the students. We're now going to play a short accommodation video for you to watch. Welcome back, everyone. We're joined with 3 of our students from the university. Can you all please briefly introduce yourselves and tell us which accommodation you've lived in?
Hi, so I'm Holly and I'm currently a first year sociology student. And I moved to Lincoln from Cambridge and I'm living in 179 High Street of a flat of 12 people.
Wonderful.
I'm Maya. I am an education and psychology student. In my first year, I lived in Valentine Court in a flat of 6 people.
So hello, my name's Harry. I am a postgraduate banking and finance student, and in my first year, I stayed in Lincoln Courts. So yeah, thank you.
Wonderful. So like we've mentioned, if you have any questions for our students here, Holly, Maya and Harry, with their respective accommodations, please send them through. So first question's for Holly. Was it easy to make friends in your accommodation?
Personally, yes, because there were so many of us, and I feel like other people feel the same. Since everyone's moving away from home for the first time, everyone is kind of in the same situation and wants to make friends with each other. So I think just during your first week, take time to spend time in the kitchen and get to know each other. But it's also nice because even if you don't get on with the people in your flat necessarily, there's kind of like a community of the whole accommodation. So it's nice to have other people that you can like talk to and things. So it's nice.
Wonderful. Maya, have you got anything to add to that?
Coming into uni, I was a year older than everyone else because I did a gap year, and I was really worried that would affect how I made friends. But in reality, everyone was so lovely. I live with 2 of them now in my second year, and you wouldn't even know. You will always find someone that you get along with, whether that be on your course or in accommodation, or you meet them on a night out or something.
Wonderful. Thanks, Maya. I've got a question for Sophie from Instagram. How does the payments for accommodation work? And if you, for example, don't want to live in an accommodation due to your flatmates, can you move?
Okay, so we have actually changed the payment process for this year. So what will happen is right before you'll pick your different kind of installment, and then right before your payment is due, our finance team will send you a reminder and a link on how to pay for your accommodation. So our most popular method of paying for accommodation is via Student Finance England. So just for example, Student Finance England might send your maintenance loan in on the Monday. They'll get the email from finance team on, say, the Wednesday saying your accommodation payment is now due. Please click the link to pay. You'll pay for your accommodation, and then you'll know what you're working with for the rest of that term. In terms of moving rooms, yes, it is absolutely possible. We do understand it. Obviously, it is your home from home. You do want to be comfortable. Now, there will always be teething processes. Someone doesn't want to take the rubbish out or something like that, but it can happen. People might not get along, but you can move rooms. Just pop into your reception and talk to your administrator, and we can look and see what availability we've got either in the same development or one of the other ones, and we'll get you moved across.
Wonderful. So I've got a question for Holly next. Did you manage to find your flatmates before moving in with them?
I did manage to find a few of them, actually. There's a lot of group chats on social media. So, for example, I found mine on WhatsApp, I believe, or Instagram. And that was really nice to get to know them a bit and kind of know who you're expecting to be going into the flat with. So, yeah, it was really nice.
Wonderful. Harry, have you got anything to add to that about finding flatmates before moving in?
Yeah, so I found my flatmates through Facebook. So there was a group chat created by the accommodation team specifically for Signet Wharf and for Lincoln Courts. And I went on and asked the chat itself, is anybody staying in Court 15 flat 4? I still remember that. And people responded, and we've made our own separate group chat on WhatsApp so we could then coordinate like moving in times, what we were going to do when we got there, started to get to know each other slightly before moving. So the opportunity is available. It's just making sure to be quite proactive about it.
Wonderful. So there's different platforms online on social media. Also, for those who maybe not on those social media, as we sign you up to UniBuddy, you can do a similar thing on that platform. My next question is for Maya. So how convenient is your accommodation in terms of getting to classes, shops and supermarkets?
Well, Valentine Court is probably the furthest accommodation away from campus, but it's no more than a 10-minute walk. So in terms of getting onto campus and to your lectures, it's really convenient. Another great thing about it is that it's next door to Morrison's, so you don't have to go far for your weekly food shop. It is also surrounded by retail parks, quite literally, which makes it fun. It was really nice first year because that's what our flatmates would do together. We'd just go to the retail park and shop together, and it gave us a really good opportunity to get to know each other.
Wonderful. So Maya, just building off that, we've got a question from Kate from YouTube. She's asked, how did you decide that you wanted to choose Valentine as your accommodation over the other choices?
Well, I didn't actually get to see any of the accommodation on the open day. So I did those 360 virtual tours on the website, and I really liked the way the whole building was structured, because it's structured like a townhouse rather than like flats. I also liked that it was a 6-person, because I didn't know if I would survive in a 12-person kitchen. And yeah, I really liked the outdoor area as well.
Wonderful. We've got another question about Valentine Court, Maya, from James this time. He's asked, in Valentine Court, was it hard sharing the washer and dryer, or is there enough time for everyone to use it when needed?
Honestly, I never encountered any problems with like needing to do my washing. If somebody else's washing was in there, you just leave it for an hour and then it would be out. But most of the time, the washing machine was free. There isn't a dryer, but you have your drying racks that you can keep in your room, and it was just really convenient.
Wonderful. So my next question from the comments in YouTube is for Sophie.
Thank you.
So we've got a great question from Ellie here. She's asked, could you speak a bit more about some of the quieter accommodation that we have on offer?
Yeah, of course. So quieter living is actually quite a new concept that we've only introduced really in this last year. Because we know at the end of the day, some people want different things from their accommodation. So this is why we've introduced quieter living. It's for people that, yes, absolutely would like a social life, but maybe just a little bit more outside the apartment. So when you are accepting your offer, there'll be an option if you want to live in a quieter living apartment. And essentially by ticking that box, you are making an agreement with the other people in your apartment that you are all being respectful of each other and maybe making no unnecessary noise after a certain time in the evening. I believe it's about 10 o'clock, and then before a certain time in the morning, I believe it's about 8 o'clock as well. And quieter living is available across all of our accommodations. It's not just one development.
Wonderful, thank you. So we've got having loads of engagement from YouTube, so thank you very much for all your questions. Sticking with you, Sophie, is there any parking available at Signet Wharf?
So there's no parking available at Signet purely because Lincoln is such what I like to call a walkable university. Everything is so close by. Now, if you don't need your car for placement, my personal advice would be to leave it at home, purely because everything is so close by. As Maya mentioned, obviously there is a Morrison's right near Valentine. There's loads of food supermarkets nearby and they all deliver. And Lincoln does have a really good transport hub as well. You can get from London to Edinburgh to pretty much anywhere in the UK quite easily from the train station. But if you are thinking about taking your car, Valentine Court is a good one to consider, as I mentioned. Now, from the student grapevine, I do know some students do still bring their cars and stay within university managed accommodation, but they do use third-party parking in the city. But that's something you would need to do your own research on.
Wonderful. So my next question is for Holly. And we've got a question about 179. How much of an issue is the noise from the train?
Honestly, I don't find it that bad because it depends on what side of the building you're on. I'm on the side not of the train track, so I have no disruptions at all. However, the other half of my flat is, and at the beginning they did notice it, but after a while I think you just kind of zone it out and it doesn't really become an issue.
Yeah.
And also on your windows, instead of properly opening your windows, it has an air vent on it, so that kind of blocks out some of the noise, which is okay.
Wonderful, thanks. So back to Sophie again for another question from YouTube. Just wondering, is there any way that you can request to be with a certain person when applying?
Of course, we know quite a few people know other people that are coming to the university, and we love that they want to live together. So when you are accepting your offer of accommodation, there is a free text box, and you will need to put down your friend's name and their student ID number, and they will need to do the same as well. Also, do have your applications mirror each other. So we can't really put you both together if one's chosen Signet and one's chosen St Mark's. So make sure you're popping the same apartments together, same sort of single sex or mixed gendered, and then so on and so forth. Pop each other's names and student ID numbers in that free text box. We always say we can't 100% guarantee it, but we do try our hardest.
Wonderful. I've got a question for Holly here. So Maya briefly touched up on being with 6 flatmates instead of 12. So I wanted to know, how does cooking work with apartments with 12 people in it?
So in our kitchen at the moment, there are 12 of us, but there are 3 hobs, 2 sinks, then 4 fridges. So even though there are a lot more people, there's enough facilities in order to have enough space. And also I've noticed that not really any 12 people are going to be cooking at the same time. So usually when I cook dinner, there's about 4 or 5 of us in there. However, there is plenty of space if you are to all be cooking together. So
Wonderful. I've got a question for you, Sophie. James asks, are you allowed overnight guests in uni accommodations?
Yes, of course you're allowed overnight guests. All we ask is that you do register them. This is just in case there's any kind of fire drills or anything like that. We just need to know a record of who's in that room at that time. So there'll be QR codes in the reception. There'll be a link in your induction or on your big survival guide when you arrive at the accommodation. Or if you can't find it, just pop down to your reception team, scan that QR code and get them logged in for the night.
Wonderful. We've got another question on YouTube from Richard. He's asked, do we have any more opportunities to look at the accommodations in person?
Yes, so accommodations are open for our next few offer holder days. So the first one is actually this Saturday, the 1st of March, where all of our accommodations will be open. So that's St Mark's, Signet Wharf, Lincoln Court, 179 High Street and Valentine Court as well. There's no sort of set tours. They are just open for the duration of the event for you to go and look at your own leisure.
Wonderful. So I've got a question for Maya here. So how do you do your laundry?
How do I do it?
Well, as in kind of like, so with your accommodation, what's the process for doing laundry?
Well, in Valentine Court, we had our own washing machine in our flat. So we didn't have to go through circuit laundry or anything. So it was as simple as getting your laundry, taking it downstairs and washing it, and then putting it on a drying rack, which was great.
So you mentioned circuit laundry. Harry, could you expand on that or how you do your laundry?
Okay, so at Lincoln Courts, we have a kind of on-site laundrette, which has a circuit laundry. Circuit laundry is fairly universal across most universities. And what you do is you download an app called a Circuit Go is the one I use. And what you do is you put a deposit of an amount of money onto your account. And then you use this for both your washing and your drying by selecting the options for like the wash cycle, length, and so on the app. So it is a fairly simple process, even though the act of doing your own washing for the first time may seem quite daunting, but it is very, very simple and very, very well organized.
Wonderful. I've got another question for you, Harry. So if I was to live close to Lincoln, can I still or should I still apply for accommodation?
Okay, so I am originally from Sleaford, which is a town about half an hour down the road from Lincoln. And that was a question I asked, to be honest, when I started applying to university. And the resounding answer I got, especially from the accommodation team and from offer holder days, was yes, definitely. Because if anything, what it allows you to do is to get really stuck into the student experience, because Lincoln is a campus university and is very walkable. You're right in the center of everything. So having easy access to like events on campus, being right next to the uni itself and not having to worry about commuting, I would say is definitely a big bonus, and thus I would recommend it.
Thanks, Harry. I've got a quick question for Maya here. It's from Instagram. Are there any cleaning products available, such as vacuum or mops, in the accommodation?
Yes, so you do get an iron, an ironing board, a vacuum and a mop. Any sprays or anything you have to bring yourself, but you'll find that especially with first years, everybody brings some. So you have like an abundance of cleaning products that will probably last you the whole year.
Wonderful, thank you. So Sophie, I've got some questions for you.
Thank you.
What provisions are in place for students with disabilities or special requirements?
So, as mentioned earlier, if you are needing a certain requirement for your room, we do always advise that you register with our student wellbeing team in that first instance, and then they'll be able to advise us if there's certain provisions that needed for the room itself, or maybe it's a location. But we basically do take a lot of advice from our student wellbeing team, so we're allocating the right room for the right student.
Wonderful. And are there staff members available 24/7 in case of any emergencies?
Yes, so your reception team and your administrators work on a Monday to Friday or Monday to Saturday, 9 till 5:30. Now, we do have 24/7 security and 24/7 maintenance as well. Now, that being said, the maintenance team isn't going to come and change your light bulb at 3 a.m., but they are there in case anything bigger was to occur. And same with our security team. Now, most likely, if a student gets in touch with security at 2 a.m., it might be because they frequented the local pub and they just need letting back into their accommodation. But both these teams are on hand in case anything bigger does occur.
Wonderful. So I've got a question for Holly. What's the best advice you'd give to the students moving into accommodation for the first time?
Honestly, just get stuck in with everything. I think that's the best way to feel comfortable moving away from home, but also meet new people. However, saying this, I think it's also really important to kind of give time for yourself, because it is very daunting moving to a new city that you've never really lived in before. So yeah, just finding that good balance between being with people, but also giving time to yourself to settle in, find your own routine, I think is important.
Wonderful. Maya, have you got anything to add to that?
I think what Holly said was absolutely amazing. You do definitely need to take time to yourself because it can be a bit much living with people, but a great way of socialising with people and getting to know your flatmates is through games nights. I know Res Life does some games nights, but it's also great to like bring your own board games and games that you love, and the amount of fun that you can have with your flatmates is amazing.
Wonderful. Harry, your best advice you give students moving into accommodation?
I would say definitely bring small things from home. Like, for example, if it's something as small as a plant you've had for a few years or an ornament from a holiday, bringing those small bits allows you to settle in a lot quicker because you feel like you've got a bit of yourself at uni. And as you begin to gather your own memories over the course of the year and bring new trinkets in as well, it will start to feel more like a home and a place where you can develop these memories. So it becomes slowly less daunting. But having that start with just a few small bits, that's always the best bit of advice I could give.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to say thank you, Sophie, Holly, Maya, and Harry, for all of your incredible responses. Just a quick reminder that applications for accommodation for September 2025 entry are now open for all firm applicants. And a reminder that to view our accommodations, those will be available at our offer holder day, which are taking place in March and April. Now, moving forward, our next live lounge will be taking place on the 12th of March, where we'll be focusing on student finance and budgeting tips from current students. So thank you everyone for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.